Hi guys, I think I'm live now. I'm a couple minutes early, which is very rare for me. Anyone that knows me knows that I am consistently late. But I wanted to do this one outdoors, and it's Pittsburgh, so it could rain at any second. So I figured I would start a little bit early, and whoever can hop on, and whoever can't, I understand. The official start time was 5:15, and according to my trusty Apple Watch, it's about, it looks like 5:12. So I'm a little early, but what are you gonna do? I am sitting in a little parklet near our local library. It's very pretty. There's a rose garden behind me. Not sure if you can really see, but it's kind of like a nice little area. Nothing too exciting or fancy, but it's better than me sitting in my car or my dining room, which is where I usually do these things. I'm gonna be kind of embarrassed though if someone comes up behind me, because they will wonder what the heck I'm doing. Basically today I just kind of wanted to talk about a few new articles I have out and what kind of impact they'll have on the rheumatology community and the community of people who are chronically ill or suffering from chronic pain, or rather, should I say, surviving and thriving with chronic pain, because I hate the word suffering. And mostly I wanted to open it up to questions again. Any questions you guys have, I'm here to answer them. I would love to hear your feedback. I will answer questions. I will respond to comments. So really anything that you want to ask or say or contribute, please feel free to do so. I apologize that I don't have a tripod or something. I feel like I'm really close up, but my arm only reaches so far, so it is what it is. Okay, it's almost 5:15 now, so I guess we can start. Officially. I realize we've already started. Well, first I want to talk about a recent Healthline.com article that I wrote. It is about a new rheumatoid arthritis medication that is in phase 3 of clinical trials. It was recently announced at the EULAR conference. EULAR is the European League Against Rheumatism, Arthritis and Rheumatism maybe. I'm probably butchering the name, but it's EULAR, E-U-L-A-R. I think it's the European League Against Rheumatism, but don't quote me on that. At any rate, this Russian pharmaceutical company called R-Pharm, R as in the letter R, Pharm. They are based out of Russia. They're, probably only, I think less than 10 years old, so they're a relatively new pharmaceutical company. They've developed this new RA drug that they announced at EULAR 2016. The drug was recently approved by the FDA and the European version of the FDA. I can't recall what it's called. They presented the data on the stage 2 trials at EULAR, and now they are in phase 3. So they've done their first patient dosing and started phase 3 of the clinical trials. And basically they've had from all sources that I talked to, which included a rheumatologist, a pain management doctor, and an oncologist, in addition to the pharmaceutical company themselves, all of them have said that the phase 2 of the trial was very promising. It did exceptionally well, and so there's a lot of hope for phase 3. And what it is an IL-6 inhibitor, which basically is fancy language, meaning it's just a biologic that works differently than, say, a B-cell or T-cell inhibitor. Also known, T-cell inhibitors are also called anti-TNF agents. So an IL-6 inhibitor is something a little bit different, but it's basically the same class of medication. It's a biologic. And from what I understand, it will be taken, let's see, I think either weekly or every other week. And It's subcutaneous injection, much like Enbrel or something. To find out the exact specifics, you'll have to check out my healthline.com article on the drug. I don't want to misquote or give misinformation here because I don't have the facts in front of me. But it is called, well, I'll let you read the article because I don't want to butcher the name either. So just go to healthline.com. You can search my name, Ashley Shuck, or Ashley Boynes Shuck, and it'll pop up somewhere. Or you can just search promising new RA drug in phase 3 clinical trials, and that should pop up if you search that in Google or on healthline.com. I'll also post the link to it after we talk today. Yeah, again, I don't want to try to even tell you the name because I'm not going to pretend that I know how to properly pronounce it. That's not super professional of me, but what can I say? I just wrote the article and read the research. I didn't profess to be able to know how to pronounce every medication name because, as you guys know, they can get very difficult to pronounce. So I got a comment here from Nigel. He's on something currently called ustekinumab. Again, don't know how to pronounce it. It's spelled ustekinumab. I'm not sure if that's the generic or brand name for something that we might know more commonly under another name here in the United States. But Nigel, because I think you told me you're from the UK, and honestly, I don't know what that drug is. I might know it if it's under a different name. Says it's licensed in the United States. You said it's licensed here in the US before it was licensed in the UK about a year ago. I'm not sure what that is if that's Xeljanz or I don't know. I will have to look that one up because it's not something I'm familiar with, to be honest with you, Nigel. But I will try to look that up and get back to you. I'm gonna take my sunglasses off because it's a little hard to see. Not wearing makeup today, so pardon my tired appearance. Okay, so yeah, my latest Healthline article is about the new drug, and well, that's not my latest actually. That was one from last week. The recent Healthline article that I posted yesterday is actually about drug overdoses, methotrexate drug overdoses that were, I'm sorry, I have a migraine today and I keep losing my train of thought, and actually the no sunglasses is a bad idea with a migraine, so they're going back on. I apologize if it's impersonal. Let me start over here. It's a problem with live casting. So my latest Healthline article is about accidental overdoses of methotrexate. Now, these drug overdoses are not something that necessarily is on the patients. What's interesting about this story is that there were 90 plus accidental methotrexate overdoses in Australia in a period of less than 10 years. And of these 90 plus overdoses, many of them were fatal. So people died from this. And it was because a lot of doctors were writing incorrect prescription dosages. So when they were writing a script, they were dosing the methotrexate at once a day instead of once a week, which was actually, very obviously dangerous and detrimental. So basically a poison, I want to say some kind of poison control or maybe drug review board. It was called the Poison Center, and this doctor did a study on this because they noticed people were overdosing from methotrexate, and that's not the type of drug that people would use recreationally or anything like that. So the overdoses seemed, odd to them. So basically they found some of it had to do with patient compliance. So patients were either misreading their script and not taking them properly or whatever. For whatever reason, patients just weren't taking things correctly. So that was part of it. But part of it also was that doctors were incorrectly prescribing them, or pharmacists were incorrectly filling them. So there's no reason to point a finger at any one individual. It was just something that kind of happened, but it was alarming because it was a relatively high number of people for that type of drug. It's not, you know, we hear about opioid and narcotic overdoses all the time. There are certainly other drugs people can overdose on, but, you know, typically methotrexate wouldn't even cross your mind when you thought of something like that. No one's ever going to take methotrexate for fun, and I'm sure many of you could attest to that, considering the side effects that come along with it, and how potent it is. So you can read the rest of the article on Healthline. A couple other news sites picked it up as well. But you know, the formal kind of feeling out there among pharmacology and rheumatology professionals is that you could overdose technically from pretty much any drug if you take it improperly or it's accidentally improperly prescribed. Methotrexate can be toxic, but if you take it the right way and with folic acid, you should be fine. So, you know, these entities pretty much just encourage people to be careful and know what kind of dose you're supposed to be taking and make sure that that's what you're being given. So you can check that article out and the one about the new phase 3 RA drug, both on healthline.com. You can search my name, or I will also post the links on this article. Post the links to the article on this page on the comment section of this live cast when I'm done. Like I said, not feeling great today. I've had a migraine all day, and basically the past 2 weeks or so have just been lots of migraines and lots of pain. So I actually was getting my hair done earlier. My best friend owns a salon, and I had to text her when I left, and I was just like, I'm so sorry that I was like really out of it today and probably a little distant. But those of you that get migraines know that they can be pretty disorienting and make you pretty distracted. I still wanted to do the live cast today because I stick to my word. But yeah, I'm wearing sunglasses for a reason, and I may seem a little spacier than usual for a reason. Luckily, I'm not suffering terribly though. I've had some really bad migraines that have landed me in the hospital, and knock on wood, which I'm literally sitting on a bench, so I'm knocking on wood that it's not going to get any worse. I can handle this just like I can handle basically anything, and so can you. Okay, we got a couple more comments here. Nigel said, he clarified, the medication he was referring to is Stelara. And I personally have no knowledge of or experience with Stelara. So if anyone out there who is viewing this knows about Stelara, Nigel just was asking kind of what his experience, or what your experience was, like what do you know about it. So, you know, if any of you want to chime in and tell Nigel, you know, what you think of Stelara, that would be great. Nigel, I'm sorry, I can't help you more. I've been on a ton of RA medications. That isn't one of them. And I don't know a lot about it. Some drugs I know about, even if I haven't taken them, because I know someone else who's taken them, or I've had to write about them for Healthline or some other writing assignments. But unfortunately, I just don't know about Stelara. My whole journey with the medications is kind of weird. As a lot of you know, I'm very, very chemically sensitive to a lot of drugs. I have a tendency to get reactions and really bad side effects, more so than the average person. It's led me to develop a little bit of pharmacophobia, which means I'm leery and hesitant about taking pharmaceutical medications, but I'm not morally or ethically opposed to them. I just have to be cautious. And the other part of this puzzle is that technically I have juvenile idiopathic arthritis, known also as JIA, JA, or JRA, because it used to be called juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. Anyway, so because I got diagnosed as a kid, my rheumatologist is hesitant to change my JIA diagnosis to an RA diagnosis. Now, if I go to any other doctor, they have RA written in my charts, but my rheumatologist still says JA. So the problem that presents is that it limits my access to certain RA medications because there are a lot of meds that are approved only for rheumatoid arthritis and not juvenile arthritis. Off the top of my head, an example of that would be Rituxan, and another one would be Xeljanz. I've not been able to try Xeljanz for this reason, and I got a $30,000 bill for one infusion of Rituxan for this reason as well. My insurance company wouldn't cover it because it was coded, my diagnosis was coded as juvenile arthritis, and it's only approved in the use of rheumatoid arthritis. So that was a big fight. And my rheumatologist, unfortunately, won't change my diagnosis or add on the RA diagnosis, even though all of my other doctors refer to it as RA. So it's really limited my options as far as trying certain other RA medications other than the usual suspects, such as Enbrel, Humira, Orencia, Remicade, methotrexate, etc. But yeah, if I get any more information on Stelara, I'll let you know, Nigel. And there are some people behind me, so I feel a little embarrassed and stupid. At any rate, Christy, hi, I see that you joined in. Christy said, they put me back up to 6 methotrexate today and still on Enbrel plus a steroid shot. Christy, do they mean 6 methotrexate a week, or that seems like a high dosage. I've been out of the methotrexate game for a while. I haven't taken it for years, but hopefully that's a safe dose for you. I think when I was on it, I took 2 once a week. That seems low though, reading yours, so maybe it's just different milligrams or different dosing schedule now. But just be careful of the dosing schedule, because that recent article that I just posted from Australia, you know, they were prescribing too much accidentally, and taken long term, it proved to be very problematic. So I would just double check that that's what the dose is supposed to be. Okay, yeah, 6 a week, I guess that's normal. I haven't taken it in so long that I can't even chime in as to what a normal dose is of methotrexate. I had to take a very low dose because of my susceptibility to having chemical reactions and bad interactions with pharmaceutical drugs. So my doctor always has to put me on a very low dose. So basically I try to take as low a dose as possible on most of my medications, and when I was taking methotrexate, I was prescribed a dose that they would give a kid that was newly diagnosed with JA, so it was very low. The problem that they were having in Australia is whatever milligram it was supposed to be once a week, and it was being given daily. So that was the issue with that, and you can read about that on Healthline. Okay, so I see that 6 is normal, because Christy says she does 6 a week, and then she was on 8 before, and Andrea chimed in and said she had taken 7 a week before switching to the injection. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about your doses if you feel that your doctor knows what he or she is talking about. I've had personal experience where doctors have prescribed me the wrong doses of things, which I talked about in a previous chat. But most doctors do know how to prescribe things and what the proper method is. So hopefully that's good. But the case in Australia was very interesting. So on to the next. Does anyone have any comments or questions? I see everyone's sharing their methotrexate stories. Hi, Shanna or Shauna. Hi, Andrea. Hi, Christy. Hi, Nigel. I appreciate you guys chiming in. I'll just wait and see if anyone has any questions. In the meantime, I'll talk about what my next Healthline article is going to be in case any of you want to help out. I'll give you a little sneak peek of what it's going to be about. My husband, for those of you who don't know, is going to be competing on NBC's reality show, American Ninja Warrior. He's one of the competitors. He'll be on this Monday, June 27th from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. I mean, he won't be on the whole time, but that's the episode he'll be on. If they use all the footage, I will also be on discussing life with rheumatoid arthritis, so you can tune into that. But anyway, my Healthline article is about what it takes to be a ninja warrior, and also what it feels like to be someone who lives with a health problem and a physical limitation like myself, and how it feels to have my husband be like this amazing athlete when there's days that it's hard for me to walk. So it'll be a unique first-person perspective, because typically my Healthline pieces are not first-person, they're news articles. So this is more like a editorial op-ed narrative type thing. So I'm sharing that part of the story. And then also an interesting fact is that one of the hosts of American Ninja Warrior, Matt Eisman, has rheumatoid arthritis. He's even been in Arthritis Today magazine and things like that. So I'm going to try to tie that in. And one of the competitors who's also on the Philly qualifiers with my husband, the Philly regionals I should say, is named Abel Gonzalez, and he has rheumatoid arthritis and actually competes with it. So it's really interesting that, you know, to see the different levels of ability and everyone's background stories on the show. So it's pretty cool to see, you know, there's a host of the show that has RA, there's a competitor that has RA, and then there's someone like my husband who is doing it for all of us who maybe have conditions like RA but can't compete. Sorry, I'm reading some of the comments. Yeah, so Lissa, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what your comment's referring to. I'm sorry. Yeah, Lissa, I'm sorry, I will happily respond to your comment if you clarify. I don't always see the comments in real time. There's sometimes a little bit of a delay, so I just not sure what, Lissa, what your comment is in response to. So if you could clarify, I'll be happy to address it. We got some folks still talking about the methotrexate injections and pills. I did the pills when I was on it, and I hated that med, but as we said earlier, I hate a lot of meds, and not because I'm opposed to them morally or ethically or anything like that. It's just nothing to do with my value system. It's a physiological problem that I have, absorbing medications properly, and I tend to get allergic reactions and side effects to them. Shauna, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. I really apologize because I hate butchering people's names, but thank you for your enthusiasm regarding my husband's American Ninja Warrior stint. I'm really excited to do this article and kind of tie all these pieces together. So it'll be nice to talk about my journey and his journey and the journey of others who have had RA affect their lives, who are going to be on the show as well. So that's like really cool. I also think it's awesome, so thank you for sharing that. And you know, if they do air my segment, I do kind of acknowledge how difficult RA is, because I don't think a lot of people fully understand, as evidenced by just how it's portrayed a lot of times in the general public and in the media. You know, it's really hard. And that's something I talked about last week in regards to the TV show Shaws of Sunset on Bravo, where Gigi, who's one of the cast members, has RA. None of her friends believe her. They all think she's faking. They don't understand that people with RA can sometimes take chemo. You know, that's very difficult as an RA patient to watch, especially because I've been on some of the drugs that she takes, as many of you also have, and it's hard to see her friends kind of not believing her and mistrusting her and giving her a hard time about it. So that's hard. So if I get the chance, even if it's vicariously kind of through my husband's accomplishments and his journey, if I get the chance to be able to shed a little bit more light on the disease, as much as I hate to always just be the sick girl and always be Arthritis Ashley, you know, that's not all I am. That's not all I want to be defined as. But if I can use my platform or his platform to educate more people or inspire anybody or educate anybody or what have you, if I can spread awareness, then that's what I'm gonna do. So it's why I wrote my books. It's why, you know, I do freelance articles about this. It's why I've done public speaking about this. It's why I've went to Capitol Hill and spoken in front of members of Congress about it. Very passionate about it. I practice what I preach. I'm not just a talking head. I do what I can to help our community, and I'm going to continue to do so. No matter what, I'm proud of my husband, even if they don't use that footage and they just show him with his students. I'm going to be so excited to watch him. Definitely a proud wife, and I hope all of you will tune in. There's some really inspiring stories on that show. I mean, it's amazing. This past week they had someone with Parkinson's disease competing, and like I said, on Monday there's a contestant who actually has RA that's competing, and it's amazingly inspiring. So regardless of if they even show Mike or share his story, I hope you'll watch, because it's really cool and uplifting to me. I know there's some people that don't want to see people with RA doing athletic stuff because it can make you feel kind of bad about yourself, and I totally get that too, but it's pretty cool. Oh cool, Andrea Wright said she set her DVR to record it. That's awesome. Lissa, I'm still wondering. Lissa said, ugh, and then LOL, you just stated that, but I honestly, I don't know what it's in reference to. I don't know if she's talking to me or one of the other commenters, but I apologize. I didn't respond to you, Lissa, because I don't know what it's, I'm sorry, I don't know what you were referring to there, so I'm sorry for that. So in regards to, back to, we're talking TV, we're talking about Ninja Warrior, let's also go back to Shaws of Sunset, which I discussed last week. I know some of you watch it, and I'm gonna actually move a little bit. The sun is in my eyes. Give me 1 second. Okay. Now I'm under a nice little tree where I have a little bit of shade. So I wanted to talk about something that's on the Shaws of Sunset, which is her friends, Gigi's friends, not believing her or understanding her RA diagnosis. And it's something that I talk about in my book Sick Idiot, and also in my book Chronically Positive. And what I'm referring to is that I have had friends who have either just completely left the friendship or changed the way they thought about me or treated me, or just didn't understand. You know, the most well-intentioned people in the world can make really ignorant comments. And I mean ignorant in the actual sense of the word, like not using that as slang for the word rude. I mean ignorant in a sense that they just don't know any better, uneducated on the topic, don't really know what they're talking about. And you know, that's sometimes just as hard and just as bothersome as when people say things with malicious intent. Because in an ideal world, everybody would get it and everybody would understand. It's just really hard, and I think like part of it is a lot of us don't look sick, we don't look disabled. You can't tell by looking at us that every single day and every moment of every day might be a struggle, and so they don't get it. So you can even have like your best friend in the world not get it and just say things like, oh, so is it just the little aches and pains, or are you just tired, or do you think that maybe you're just stressed? Yeah, it's all of that. Stress can exacerbate it. I am tired, I do have aches and pains, but I wish people knew that it was so much more. I don't think people know that it can be a debilitating systemic disease that can affect everything from your heart to your lungs to your skin. I don't think people realize it affects your quality of sleep and your quality of life. I think people think that sore means just a little ache and pain, like how you feel sore after exercising, or how anyone feels stiff and sore in the morning. No, it's so much more than that. And honestly, no one's ever going to understand unless they or someone they love have it. And I'll actually change that statement, because there are a lot of people who I know care about me and love me and like me, and they're my friends or my family, who still don't get it. And I think sometimes, you know, how do you not get it? Like, I dedicate my life to talking about it and trying to educate people about it. And I don't know if they're not listening or not reading or just not absorbing the information, or, you know, if it's a denial thing, like they don't want to believe that someone young and relatively healthy looking and relatively productive can actually be this ill. You know, a part of it might be some warped, masked form of concern that's just sort of manifesting itself in denial. You know, and I don't know. I try the best I can to share my story and share my journey. And, you know, I think some people just never will get it because they don't want to get it. And then there's some people who desperately want to understand who just can't. And I would never, ever, ever wish this illness or any illness upon anybody. So with that attitude also comes the fact that no one's ever going to get it unless they get it. And I don't want them to get it. So, you know, it's like you got to accept that people just aren't necessarily going to naturally get it and naturally understand what you're going through. But it was hard to watch Shaw's this week. For those of you who did watch Shaw's of Sunset, man, it was hard. All the accusations and implying that she's exaggerating or faking or just wants attention. I get it. I know people do that. I know people who want to play the victim. They want pity. They want attention. They start drama. And I'm not saying that this girl on the show, Gigi, is perfect. She does smoke and drink and party, and she self-medicates, and she has a poor, really combative, defiant attitude. She's not always pleasant, and she was like that before her RA diagnosis, so I think that's just her personality. But that said, it doesn't matter if she is drunk as a skunk every night or out shooting up drugs somewhere or what have you, sleeping with different guys, whatever. I don't approve of or condone those things, but just because she may do some of that or partake in some of that does not mean she isn't dealing with a serious illness. And that's what these people on the show, her other castmates, fail to understand. You know, everyone copes with this differently, and some people cope better than others. And just because she goes out and parties and, as they said, she drops it like it's hot and wears stiletto heels, I mean, yeah, a lot of people with RA cannot do that, but that doesn't mean she's not sick. That doesn't mean that she, you know, doesn't have a serious illness. She's maybe just handling it as best she can and trying to live her life as normally as possibly until she can't do so anymore. We shouldn't make assumptions about her situation. And the other part of it is, not everybody understands medical terminology or the medical process. Navigating these illnesses is super confusing, super complex, super multi-layered. She easily could have gotten confused about some things and maybe miscommunicated them to her friends or misconstrued them. I doubt it was intentional. Maybe it was, I don't know. But you know, just because she didn't go get chemotherapy when her friend was with her doesn't mean she doesn't need it or won't one day need it. I mean, let's be realistic. A lot of us have done drugs that either were actually chemotherapy drugs or medications that maybe aren't classified as chemotherapy, but they do use them to treat cancer. Maybe she exaggerates sometimes, but it doesn't mean that she's not sick simply because she doesn't look sick or act what they think, you know, a sick person should act like. And I think sometimes when people are exaggerating, it's because they desperately want that understanding that I was just talking about. Most people aren't exaggerating. Most people are honest about how they're feeling, and some people can't grasp or handle the reality of how crappy that really is sometimes. I mean, there's times that I probably look and sound and speak like I'm so sick that it's hard to believe, because it sometimes is hard to believe. It's sometimes that bad, and that's what people don't understand. And yeah, she could have simply misunderstood some things, but I believe she has RA. I have seen her Instagram photos of her getting infusions, you know, pictures of her methotrexate with her name on it. No doctor's going to prescribe Rituxan, which is a very strong drug, or methotrexate, which is also a very strong drug, as I discussed earlier in regards to the Australia study. I feel bad for her. Maybe she doesn't cope in the greatest way. Maybe she's not the best role model in the world, but she probably didn't ask to be a role model, and she just got handed this disease, and I think she's doing the best she can to use her platform on Bravo's Shahs of Sunset in order to spread awareness. And that's all any of us can do, is just do the best we can with our situation, no matter what that means. So now I'm going to read some of your comments. Shauna says, it was hard to watch this week. She's referring to Shahs of Sunset, which I was just discussing, but I just don't think people understand autoimmune diseases. Totally agree. People don't understand them at all. And you know what? Even the science community, the medical community, doctors, healthcare professionals, I've come across some people in those fields who have been a little bit uninformed or maybe ignorant to certain ins and outs of autoimmunity, and a responsible, honest doctor will tell anyone that they don't fully understand it, because there's no one out there that fully understands the how and the why behind autoimmune illness. And if they did, there would probably be a cure by now. If the medical community doesn't get it, we can't necessarily expect all of our friends and loved ones to get it, even if we wish they did. I mean, we all wish that our friends and family and loved ones and colleagues and neighbors and even doctors and nurses, we wish so much, at least I do, that they would understand and be able to just empathize and just get it, But at the same time, as much as we desire that and we can strive to educate them and spread awareness, we also have to accept the simple fact that sometimes people aren't going to get it. Most of the time, people aren't going to get it. And that's okay. It does not mean that they don't care about us. It does not mean that they don't love us. It does not mean that they don't believe us. It just means that there are certain things in life you have to experience firsthand to really, truly understand. And autoimmune diseases are definitely one of them. So I, for one, am so thankful to all of you, because without this online community, I don't know what I would do, because there aren't a lot of people in my life who also deal with this kind of stuff. And it would be very hard to navigate these pretty serious and disabling illnesses. It would be hard to navigate them alone. So you guys all help me to feel like I'm not alone. So I just want to put that out there and say thank you. And that's genuine thanks. I'm very grateful for all of you. Lissa says, people only see us when we feel okay. So we think that, I'm sorry. It would be helpful if I could talk today. Lissa says, people only see us when we feel okay. So they think we're fine. And that's probably true, because if you think about it, I don't know about you, Lissa, but for me, I'm less prone to go out and do things if I'm feeling sick. If I feel like crap and I'm having an RA flare or a dystonia flare up or a terrible migraine, I'm less apt to go out in public and to keep appointments or to go to the gym or to go to coffee with friends or get my hair done or visit with family. So you're right. People usually only see us when we're feeling okay. And so maybe they don't get it, because aside from my husband and my parents, not many people in my life have seen me at my worst. And even some of my very best friends in the world, they may have seen me in the hospital. They may have seen me after my brain surgery, but they don't see me on the day-to-day. So they don't quite know how very bad it can be. So Lissa, that's like a really good point. Today, I had to make a big effort to get to my hair appointment. And some other things I had to do today, because I'm leaving for a trip on Friday, so my free time has been limited and I have stuff I have to do before I go. Plus, the girl that does my hair is my very best friend since kindergarten, so I make any excuse possible to see her, and I didn't want to cancel on her, but man, was it hard. I had a migraine. It's been one of these ones kind of like up and down throughout the day. It keeps ebbing and flowing, and I really had to power through, and I kind of had mentioned to her that I had a migraine, but it was not my worst, and she's never seen me at my worst, and most people never do see me at my worst. So you are 100% right. Maybe if more people saw us at our very worst, they would totally get it. But even then, I don't know if they would, you know, because there's people that have seen me at my worst that, you know, I think they get it maybe more than others, but I still go back to the fact that I don't think, you know, unless someone lives it themselves, that they ever fully understand. And to that point, something I discuss in my books is the fact that, how do I phrase this the right way? I discuss the fact that you guys understand my journey more than anybody else, probably. However, even you guys, if you have the same set of conditions, the same set of symptoms, it might be your journey might still be completely different from mine. We can never really understand what another person is going through or how they feel physically and emotionally. Even if we have the same set of symptoms and the same diagnoses and the same, every other same circumstance, we are all on our unique paths, and we really can't ever understand what another person is dealing with. That's why I personally, and I don't mean this to sound like preachy or fake or pat myself on the back, but I really, really, truly pride myself on trying my best to be kind and loving and patient and forgiving and just compassionate and empathetic to everybody. Empathetic. That's, if someone asked me what I would want to be known for in life, I always say my biggest thing is like, I just would want people in my life to know how much I loved them. Like, that's the legacy I want to leave behind. But aside from that, I would want people to say, not that I'm a great writer, not that I'm this strong warrior who battled these illnesses or whatever. I would want people to say I was an empathetic person. And I think having these illnesses has made me more empathetic, because I realize now how hard life can be. And you know, there's a quote that says, be kind because everybody you know is fighting a battle. I believe that's true. And it might be health related, it might not. So it never hurts to be nice to people. People could be on the same path as you and it's still a completely different journey. So you never know what someone's dealing with physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. So that's something to keep in mind. And never judge a book by its cover, because that's why a lot of us don't have the understanding that we desire, because a lot of us just don't look like a sick book. So we're not books that should be judged by our cover. Michelle said she feels that I explain what you guys are all and what I'm going through so well. So I appreciate that, Michelle. I try to explain it well. I don't know that I always do, but I really try. And I don't mean to keep talking about my books, but my writing is like, it's a huge part of who I am. So it kind of comes up naturally sometimes. And in Sick Idiot, actually, Michelle, I wrote that book for people who weren't sick. So I wrote it for a general audience. Like, I wanted it to be kind of just a collection of funny and humorous, lighthearted short stories and essays. Yes, it all relates back to my health issues, but I kind of wanted it to have a broader scope so that people would read it and think it was funny, but then at the same time learn about these conditions. So in that book, I try to explain what we were going through with humor, because sometimes I think that laughter really is the best medicine, and that by kind of joking about things that aren't usually funny, it can kind of bring it down to a level that's common ground. You know, everybody likes humor. Everybody likes things that make them smile or giggle. So part of why I wrote that book, in addition to trying to just share my story and uplift other people who are struggling, is that I think that sometimes through humor we can educate and inspire. So that's what I did with Sick Idiot. And then in Chronically Positive, I go even deeper into like explaining the true daily ins and outs, the realness, the rawness, the difficulties of these illnesses. That one's a little more serious, raw, real, honest, gritty, but still inspiring. But I've kind of made it my life's work to explain what we are all going through. And so I appreciate you acknowledging that, Michelle. Christy, you're so sweet. You just totally made my day. Christy said, we love you and thank you greatly. That means so much to me. It really does. If my husband was here, I would make him get on this camera and tell you guys. I tell him all the time, I'm like, the people that are a part of my Arthritis Ashley community and who have read my books and who follow me online are seriously so great. I always tell him how much you guys like inspire me, and some of your messages and emails and stuff have actually made me cry, and some of your book reviews have made me cry. Only happy tears though, because I always like to say, I'm so happy that we're not alone, and I'm so happy that you can relate, but I'm also sad that you have to go through it. You know what I mean? Like, it's nice to know there's other people out there who are dealing with the same stuff as me, but I kind of wish there wasn't. I wish all these diseases were completely eradicated, but until they are, I'm just going to try to keep doing what I do and hope that you guys enjoy it or learn from it, or even if you don't like me or agree with me, that you at least can take something from it. And you can hate me or disapprove of things I say, but if that's the case, then I hope it propels you to form your own opinion on these things. And if my Arthritis Ashley community and my work on Healthline and my books aren't your cup of tea, then I hope you find your cup of tea, because none of us should have to go through this alone. So that's probably one of my biggest overarching messages. Lissa, yeah, it's really tough to go out when you don't feel well. I've definitely had to force myself to go out and do things at times when I'm sick or in pain or whatever, and it's just tough. So I give anyone credit who powers through, because it's not easy. It's not easy. Yeah, and Lissa also said, sometimes people act like these diseases are just like a cold or the flu or something, and then try to give advice. I hate having the flu. It sucks, but it ends eventually, and having a cold sucks, but it ends eventually. So I never want to diminish when somebody has an acute illness like that. But at the same time, those acute illnesses usually end. So that's the hard part of chronic illness, is that it is chronic. And so I'll never put someone down for complaining if they have the flu or something, or like a cold. I'll never try to compare or compete or put them down, but at the same time, it's like, it'll stop at some point. You'll get over it. I mean, I had bronchitis once for like 4 months, and I felt like I was never going to get over it. So sometimes those things take longer than others, but you usually don't have the flu for life. And unfortunately with RA and these types of conditions, sometimes it feels like you have the flu for life. So you're right, Lissa. People only can offer advice on things that they get and understand. So I think that they try to offer these little tips and tricks and old wives' tales and home remedies, because that's what they do when they're sick. So, chicken soup and hot tea help, and this and that help, and that is all wonderful when you have that type of illness. But people, I think what it is, Lissa, and everyone else who's watching, I believe people truly do want to help. I don't believe most people want to see us suffering. I think people are, have good intentions, and they are trying to give us advice, and they're trying to help. Sometimes their advice can come off as annoying or condescending. Other times their advice is completely inaccurate and a complete fallacy, and it doesn't apply to us at all. But I've learned, I used to get annoyed by it and kind of frustrated, but I've learned now to just say thank you, to just see the best in people and believe that they probably have good intentions and they just don't know any better. And I say thank you, because while their advice is sometimes misguided, it at least shows that they care, and that's all any of us, I think, can ask for, is people around us who love us and care about us, and who care enough to offer us silly, ridiculous advice. So I'm gonna have to get going here soon. I actually intended this chat to be shorter than it was. You guys probably get so sick of me rambling. I feel so bad because I do these things and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna keep it short and succinct, and I end up talking and talking and talking. So I apologize for that, but I love the participation. Like, I absolutely love when you guys chime in with questions and comments. I hope I don't bore you. If I do, luckily, if you're not watching this live, you can fast forward through parts of it. And I guess if you're watching it live, you can just click off of it if you're not interested. But before I go, I'll just open it up to questions one more time. I'll give you a couple minutes to type out any questions or comments you have. And until I get any more, if I get any more, I will just remind you of what we talked about. If I can remember it all, in a bit of a brain fog today. First, I talked about the novel RA drug. It's an IL-6 inhibitor. It's in phase 3 trials from the Russian pharmaceutical company R-Pharm. And I talk about that in my Healthline article on healthline.com. I'll post a link to it. The second thing I talked about was my other healthline.com article, which, what one was that one about? Oh, the methotrexate overdoses that were due to accidental screw-ups, I guess, in the prescriptions. It was misdosing. Incorrect dosing led to those overdoses. So as long as your doctor is giving you the right dose, you shouldn't have to worry. But if you want to read that article and read about the study, that's also on healthline.com. And if you actually go to the news section of Google today and type in methotrexate and my name, Ashley Boyenschuck, it probably will pop up. I think the headline says something really dramatic like killer drug for RA or something. But I'll also post that link. The third thing I talked about was my husband going on American Ninja Warrior. He's going on this Monday, June 27th from 8 p.m. The show airs from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern on NBC, and then it will re-air later next week on Esquire Network. If they use all of the footage and actually show Mike, which I hope they do, I should be on there too, and possibly if they use it, I'll be discussing my life with rheumatoid arthritis, so you may want to tune into that. And I'll also be writing a Healthline.com article on what it takes to be an American Ninja Warrior. And believe it or not, that story will have an RA angle. I know it seems weird to have a Ninja Warrior story have an angle that has to do with rheumatoid arthritis, but it does, and you can see how I tie it all in together. The article should go live, I think, the same day as the show airs, which is Monday, 27th. Then we talked about Shaws of Sunset again, and Gigi's storyline about her life with RA, and her friends being skeptical of her diagnosis, accusing her of lying or exaggerating. Quick side note, the funny thing about that is I tweeted Reza from the show about the fallacies and inaccuracies he was spreading and how he was treating his friend. And I kind of told him to like do his homework because people with RA can get heart disease and can take chemotherapy, and he blocked me on Twitter. So maybe that's one of my claims to fame, is that Reza Farahàn from Shaws of Sunset blocked me from Twitter for trying to educate him. But at least during that chat, I did school some people on RA who were fans of the Bravo show. So that, if I can reach more people, I'll do whatever to get some attention for this cause. And then we just talked about how sometimes our friends can grow distant from us, or our loved ones just don't understand the illness. And we concluded, myself, Lissa, and everyone else who's watching, we all concluded that we think that when people are offering us advice, it's out of love and they're coming from a good place and mean well, even if their advice is misguided. And also that no one can really understand rheumatoid arthritis or other autoimmune conditions unless they live it themselves. And I don't know about you guys, but I wish less people would have to be living this themselves because it stinks. But it's all made a lot better with all of you guys. So I will see you not next week because I'll be on vacation, but the week after, the week of 4th of July, I'll probably do a live tweet, maybe, we'll say probably July 6th, 7th, or 8th. So I will post it on my Facebook when my next live tweet is. In the meantime, I will post some links. Be sure to check out healthline.com. Be sure to check out my books, Chronically Positive, Sick Idiot, and To Exist. And also contact me if you want to learn any more about essential oils or Shakeology, or if you just want to talk and learn more about my journey with rheumatoid arthritis and several dozen other health diagnoses. I will keep tweeting and Facebooking and Instagramming with you guys, sending lots of love and light your way, and I hope you have a wonderful and relatively pain-free evening. Bye. P.S. Thank you for joining.